We acknowledge that the traditional land upon which this exciting new project will be located is in Treaty 6 territory. We hold up and recognize the continued contributions to this territory by Treaty 6 peoples and by those whose ancestors' footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. We also acknowledge the Edmonton region as an important part of the Métis homeland and the home of one of the largest communities of Inuit south of the 60th parallel. We honor the traditions and spirit of the First Peoples of this land. We are honored today to have very special guests joining us. We will hear first from the Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney. He will be followed by Canada's Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, François Philippe Champagne. Third is the Mayor of Edmonton, Don Iveson. And after the elected officials, Air Products Chairman, President, and Chief Executive Officer, Seifi Ghasemi, will give us the global company perspective. The Vice President of our Canadian business, Rachel Smith, will conclude the formal remarks. Following the prepared remarks, we will have time for media questions, running until about 12:30 Eastern, 10:30 Mountain. The operator will come on after all prepared remarks with instructions for how to ask questions. Joining us and also available to take questions is the Honorable Seamus O'Regan, Canada's Minister for Natural Resources. Now I am truly honored to be able to introduce the Premier of Alberta. Please welcome the Honorable Jason Kenney.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. And I'm very happy today to join Seifi Ghasemi and the great team at Air Products for today's exciting announcement. Let me also welcome and thank Minister Champagne and Minister O'Regan and thank them for their participation on behalf of the Government of Canada and Mayor Iveson. A new net zero hydrogen complex here in Edmonton is fantastic news for the Alberta and Canadian economies. It's a big step to realizing our vision of Alberta as a global leader in the global hydrogen industry, which has the promise of becoming a multi-trillion-dollar industry in the years to come. So I really want to start by thanking Seifi and the team at Air Products for recognizing our potential and bringing your vision and ingenuity here as the world-leading company in hydrogen production. There's good reason to be excited about this $1.3 billion project that will create about 2,500 jobs for Albertans and deploy advanced hydrogen technology in a flagship facility. It's a project that plays off our existing strengths and expertise while recognizing the drive, hard work, and potential of Albertans. This investment is being supported by $15 million in funding from Alberta's Technology, Innovation and Emissions Reduction Fund to support Air Products' new multi-billion-dollar blue hydrogen facility. This $1.3 billion facility will combine technologies in new and innovative ways to produce low-carbon hydrogen. In fact, this technology is the first of its kind in Canada to produce net zero hydrogen from natural gas. This project will make Alberta's capital city the center of the country's hydrogen economy and lay the foundation for Air Products to operate the world's most competitive and lowest carbon intensity hydrogen network, and we hope for future investments to be built on top of it from Air Products. This funding is being delivered through our trusted partner, Emissions Reduction Alberta, through the Shovel Ready Challenge, which we set up to stimulate the economy following the collapse of the global economy a year ago, while also providing long-term environmental benefits. This is just one of many exciting projects under the Shovel Ready Challenge that we look forward to announcing in the weeks to come. It's the exact type of project that the TIER Fund was created to support, and an example of another world-leading company investing in Alberta and showing real leadership on both the environment and the economy. Hydrogen can bring billions of dollars to Alberta's economy each year while cutting emissions and creating jobs, making it a real game changer. Alberta will become a world-leading supplier of low-cost, low-emission hydrogen, building on our expertise in carbon capture and storage and our enormous natural gas reserves, the 5th largest in the world. Interest in hydrogen is moving quickly, and Alberta must be willing to match the pace of international leaders in order to keep up. We're building on existing natural gas resources and infrastructure as well as I mentioned, in previous investments in CCUS and favorable geology that allows us to sequester emissions safely underground. In fact, I think the Boston Consulting Group has, in a study, estimated Alberta has the second best geological formation for carbon storage. Alberta is home to a massive supply of natural gas, as I've said, advanced CCUS facilities, a highly skilled workforce, and a business-friendly climate that fosters investor confidence. And we're in the final stages of developing our hydrogen roadmap. We were just discussing it at Cabinet the other day, part of our natural gas vision and strategy to help develop this growing sector. Our province has more than 200 years worth of natural gas at current production levels, production that's available to feed a growing global hydrogen market. Each day, roughly 5,400 tons of hydrogen are produced from natural gas, primarily for industrial use. We know that hydrogen plays a huge role in the world's energy future, and it's expected that global demand for hydrogen could increase tenfold between now and 2050. In fact, the Hydrogen Council, a global advisory group, estimates that by 2050, the global hydrogen sector could generate $2.5 trillion per year, creating some 30 million jobs. In addition to our hydrogen roadmap, I want to commend the work of Invest Alberta, which encourages world-leading companies like Air Products to expand their operations here, and they signed a memorandum of understanding with the company to help move this project forward. We're also seeing important strides for the hydrogen industry through the launch of the Greater Edmonton Regional Hydrogen Hub, the first of its kind in Canada, and also supported by the province with funding from Emissions Reduction Alberta. And I also want to pause just to say thank you very much to our partners in the Government of Canada for working to make this project a possibility, and to all of our local community leaders, including the City of Edmonton Mayor Iveson. This is just the beginning. With projects like these, our province is securing our future as a powerhouse in clean energy production. I want to conclude again by thanking Safi and the team at Air Products for working closely with our Associate Minister for Natural Gas and Electricity, Dale Nally, as well as Dr. David Knight-Legg at Invest Alberta. Thank you again. And now I'd like to pass the call to my federal colleague, the Honourable François Philippe Champagne, Canada's Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry. And Minister, can't wait to welcome you back here to Alberta in person shortly, let's hope, as well as Safi, you and your team. I can't wait to actually see work underway on this important project.
Thank you very much, Premier Kenney, and I look forward to see you too and be able to travel. Let me start by saying thank you for your kind words, Premier, and a special virtual welcome to Safi Gassemi, which is the Chairman and CEO of Air Products. I just want to say thank you, dear Safi, for taking my calls at about any time of the day, and I would almost say evening and nights as we have engaged in that. And thank you again for your vision and certainly leadership towards a clean energy future. I'm glad to be here today with Premier Kenney. Premier Kenney, like I was saying, it's always a pleasure to work with you, as we are always laser focused on jobs and growth. And I think this morning is yet another example of our common focus on that. It's always a pleasure to be working with you and your team to deliver for Albertans. Minister O'Regan, my dear friend, great that you be with us today. I must say that Minister O'Regan is a strong advocate for the energy sector and energy worker. I can assure all Albertans of that. I hear him in cabinet all the time, and is always someone who understands the fact that the environment and the energy can go on and on. And so both the environment and the economy and the energy can work together to support Canadians across our nation. And to Mayor Iveson, dear Don, you're a true leader in our country. So a real pleasure and sincere congratulations to put Edmonton at the center of Western Canada hydrogen economy. That's quite of an achievement, and I want to congratulate you for that. And certainly pleased to join you today to highlight this, as the Premier was saying, a very concrete step towards one of the first facilities that will help make Canada, Alberta, and Edmonton global leaders in growing the clean hydrogen sector in our country. I think it is fair to say that COVID has challenged every aspect of Canadian lives. For those in the energy sector, however, in Alberta and elsewhere, the unstable market has made things even harder. While we are doing everything possible to protect the health and safety of Canadians across our nation, we're also fully committed to support workers and businesses for as long as it takes. The markets are moving. Investors and consumers want to see more sustainable products. And Canadian workers and businesses have responded to these opportunities as we have the talent, the expertise, I would add the spirit and the know-how to make it happen. We have been there at every step of the way to support the investors and innovators in our country who are helping Canada stay ahead in this global race for economic opportunity. We came forward with the innovation and skills plan to make sure that we would equip Canadians with the skills needed to succeed. We introduced a comprehensive approach to fight climate change. It provides ambition, but also clarity and predictability, helping businesses make the right decision. This foundation is our platform from which to jumpstart the post-COVID economic recovery. The global race is on, and Canada is ready to lead in building a cleaner, stronger, and more resilient economy with our partners in the private sector. Clean energy and hydrogen is the perfect example. We know that clean hydrogen can fuel economic growth. It can help lower emissions in hard-to-abate sectors like in heavy industries. It can also power cars, trucks, ferries, and planes, all with zero emissions. Hydrogen can help us lower emissions, increase competitiveness, and create good jobs in Alberta and across Canada. Companies in Canada are already leading the transition to clean hydrogen to meet their power needs. Like us, they see the direction the market is moving. As the Premier alluded before, Canada's hydrogen economy stands to create 315,000 jobs and 50 billion in revenue in the coming decades. This is why my friend and Minister of Natural Resources, the Honorable Seamus O'Regan, introduced the hydrogen strategy for Canada last December. We are working together with our partners to position Canada as a global industrial leader in clean, renewable fuels. The good news is that Canada is starting with many advantages. Many of them I had the opportunity to discuss with the CEO and chairman of Air Products. We have abundant sources to produce hydrogen, as the Premier alluded to. We have the expertise in hydrogen technology. We have access to international markets, and we have a strong energy sector with very skilled labor. All of these are making Alberta and Canada an attractive place to invest. We are already a top 10 hydrogen producer, but we know this is just the beginning. And today's announcement is a good example towards global leadership in clean fuels. We are putting in place the policies to make sure that Canada reaps the rewards as a leader in clean hydrogen and get an early foothold in this growing market here in North America. And so it is my pleasure to announce that the Government of Canada is signing a memorandum of understanding with Air Products Canada to produce clean hydrogen right here in Canada by 2024. We will work with the company as we have done so far and with our provincial and municipal partners on support for the construction of a facility to produce clean hydrogen at a world-class scale in Edmonton. This would allow Air Products to provide clean energy for electricity production for refineries, Alberta's electricity grid, and transportation like trucking, making Edmonton, I'm sure to the great pleasure of the mayor, making Edmonton a hub for Western North America in the hydrogen economy. This kind of project is good news not only for Edmonton and Alberta, but for all of Canada. It's good news for workers in the energy and construction sector. It's good news for the economy and the many small and medium-sized businesses who will benefit from that investment. And it's good news overall in our transition towards a low-carbon future. These are the type of investments that we are looking for as they require strategic, immediate actions with our key partners and a long-term vision. So let me close by congratulating everyone involved today and encourage all of us to seize the moment, to be ambitious, and to make Canada a world leader in blue hydrogen. With that, I will gladly pass on the microphone virtually to the Mayor of Edmonton, a dear friend, Mayor Iveson. The floor is yours.
Merci, François Philippe, and welcome to Minister O'Regan. Thank you, Minister Premier Kenney, Mr. Gusemi, and friends from Air Products. What an exciting day for Edmonton and Alberta and Canada. And I especially chose my Grandpa Larry's cufflinks, which have Leduc #1 on them. He came here, and my dad's family was brought to this region by that great energy boom. And we've been here ever since. But today, I believe this clean hydrogen energy boom will be what secures a prosperity for Larry's great-grandkids, my kids, and all of our kids who can have a future in the energy business while solving the world's climate challenges. So this $1.3 billion investment made in Edmonton has the potential to revitalize industrial economic activity in our city and region, while enhancing Edmonton Metro as Canada's first hydrogen hub and bolstering Edmonton Metro's ESG credentials. This project serves as a signal of Edmonton and Canada's commitment to this generation's moonshot in the context of helping the world, including us, transition to a carbon neutral future. Now, we need many, many pathways to get to net zero by 2050, but hydrogen is a big one. And it's no secret that Alberta has experienced challenging economic circumstances, given all the pressures and disruptions facing our energy sector. But that's why Edmonton City Council has pursued investments and projects that bring tangible twin economic and environmental benefits. This includes leadership like Edmonton's energy transition strategy, the city's plan to transition to a fully carbon neutral city while securing economic opportunities like this for Edmontonians, who, after all, are some of the world's best energy problem solvers already. So we are keen on high-performing green buildings and energy efficiency retrofits as job creators too, and we're leaning in on groundbreaking initiatives like the Blatchford neighborhood, which when completed will be one of the world's largest net zero neighborhoods. And we're growing our national leadership on zero emissions municipal fleets, including green lighting purchase of our first pair of hydrogen fuel cell test buses just this last Monday. And those buses will run on net zero hydrogen produced right here in our region from this plant, or perhaps the others like it that we hope will come. Now, today's announcement is a huge example of how Edmonton City Council is working to transform and diversify our economy. Edmonton and our Metro region partners are making our presence known to investors looking for jurisdictions that are serious about a net zero future. And we're firmly signaling that we are open for business with serious and with deepening ESG credentials that set Edmonton Metro apart. Now, along with our neighboring mayors and First Nations chiefs leading the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, the City of Edmonton has leaned into Northern Alberta's competitive advantages to drive growth in the hydrogen economy. And this project positions Edmonton as ground zero, not only as a first of its kind industry hub, but also for driving exports to markets, not just across Western Canada, but well into the Pacific Northwest and Great Plains states. Now, in addition, this project will harness the ingenuity and know-how of the Edmonton Metro region to produce liquid hydrogen that could be used, among other things, to fuel those city buses, but also long-haul trucks and to blend into gas-fired power plants and gas heating networks. This is one of the clean fuels we and the world need. So the next speaker will address the project's industry-leading technology, but let me right now thank Mr. Gusemi and Air Products shareholders for their confidence and long-standing commitment to our region, doubling down with this transformational investment. Indeed, you have many options for where to park your investments, and so on behalf of Edmontonians, we are eternally grateful for your decisions' wisdom and for your confidence in our community. The thousands of construction jobs, the substantial local tax revenue, of course, and the spin-off benefits for decades to come are so welcome, especially in the COVID recovery context. Our business community will welcome a significant shot in the arm, vaccination pun notwithstanding, generated through procurement, job creation, consumer spending, and general economic confidence, which we need. And as mayor, I know Edmonton's critical mass of innovation, entrepreneurship, and technical know-how will help secure spin-off industries for the technologies to scale up the hydrogen economy here and around the world. And all that means hope. For students, for technicians, for tradespeople, for investors, for manufacturers, hope for our economy and for our people who could use some good news these days. So as the world economy changes and Alberta's economy changes with it, mayors in our region knew we needed to pitch Edmonton Metro differently to the world and help investors with much greater finesse than we had in the past. And that led to creating Edmonton Global, our regional economic development and investment attraction agency, which has been instrumental in landing today's good news. So big thank you to the Edmonton Global team for your successful efforts. Now, I'm a strong advocate for investments like these because I believe they're key to ensuring our economic prosperity in addition to enhancing our environmental and climate credentials for generations to come. So my thanks to the Government of Canada for the tax and regulatory changes to help attract this investment, to the Government of Alberta as well for their assistance, and in particular, big thanks to Mayor Elena Natu from Sturgeon County for rallying the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub into being, and of course, huge thanks to Air Products for this transformative investment in our region. And I'll now turn the virtual podium over to the Chairman, President, and CEO of Air Products, Mr. Seifi Gassemi.
Thank you very much, Mayor Iveson. Honorable Premier Kenney, Honorable Minister Champagne, Honorable Minister O'Regan, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start my formal remarks, I would just like to take a second and sincerely thank Premier Kenney, Minister Champagne, and Mayor Iveson's very kind remarks about Air Products. We very much appreciate the vision that you have provided for us, which is making this project possible. As all of you know, we as Air Products operate in 52 different countries around the world. I can't think of a better place to invest our money for the long term than Canada. Canada has shown that they have the vision. You are leading the world in the vision for energy transition. And we are truly honored to be part of it. And I hope that this will be the beginning of many, many more projects that we will do in Canada. So with that, I would like to say that all of us at Air Products are very proud and excited to announce this multi-billion-dollar project. We plan to invest $1.3 billion in the first phase, and I like to stress in the first phase of this multi-billion-dollar project, and have the first units operational by 2024. The project will produce net zero hydrogen, first of its kind in the world, for our customers in Alberta. We have been working to develop this project for the last 3 years. This significant investment is based on our Air Products core competencies, which are gasification, carbon capture, and hydrogen. We are the leading producer of hydrogen worldwide, and we intend to be the leading producer in blue hydrogen and also green hydrogen. But I'd like to stress that this investment fully supports the vision of the Canadian government to advance its competitive low carbon economy. This project is also totally aligned with Canada's clean energy transition strategy. It supports Alberta's and Invest Alberta's development focus and is a step forward toward Edmonton's low carbon future. We do sincerely acknowledge, and I like to stress acknowledge, and appreciate the support of the local and federal officials in Canada to make this project a reality. Thank you very much. Now I would like to turn the call over to Ms. Rachel Smith, who is the general manager of our business in Canada. She obviously lives in Canada, and she is a big promoter of investments in Canada, and she had a very important role in convincing us to do this project in Canada. So Rachel, please.
Thank you very much, Seifi. On behalf of all of the Air Products Canada employees, we are incredibly excited to be chosen as the host of the lowest carbon hydrogen network in the world. We have been operating here in Alberta since 2006. And today we have 3 world-scale hydrogen production assets that are interconnected by our Heartland Hydrogen Pipeline system. Our network supplies hydrogen to industrial customers across the Alberta Heartland region in both the refining and petrochemical sectors. We have a well-established Edmonton team that I am very proud to say has an outstanding safety and reliability track record. Back in 2010, we pre-invested in pipeline capacity to support substantial growth in the region. It is so gratifying to see that growth developing in the emerging hydrogen economy that will create a cleaner future for generations to come. As an Edmontonian, I see this innovative project as being incredibly important for the region, both economically and environmentally. It will create over 2,500 construction and engineering jobs that will then have cascading benefits for the local economy. The innovative design will enable us to achieve net zero emissions. And while it's still considered blue hydrogen, we're calling it blue, but better. With this new complex being connected to our existing pipeline infrastructure, this will help our customers across the Alberta Heartland region achieve a lower carbon footprint. Our hydrogen energy complex will also include a liquefaction facility, the first in Western Canada. This will support the transition of the transportation sector to a zero emission fuel. To give you a sense of scale, there will be enough liquid hydrogen capacity to fuel every transit agency across Alberta. This is personal for me. We have been talking about energy diversification and reducing our energy sector's environmental footprint since my days at U of A. And now, here we are, making it happen, and the Air Products team couldn't be more proud. Katie, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you very much to all of our speakers today. As you can tell, this is a big day for our company. And we're also very grateful for such a strong show of support from all of the elected officials related to this project. And now I'd like to open the floor to questions from accredited members of the media. Due to time constraints, we ask that you please keep your questions focused on today's announcement. You will be given the opportunity to ask one follow-up question if you have one. And please start by indicating to whom your question is being directed. Operator, would you please go ahead and open the lines?
Certainly, thank you. Merci. Please press *1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur étoile 1 maintenant pour poser une question. Our first question, notre première question, is from Charlotte Dumoulin de Radio-Canada. La parole est à vous.
Oui, bonjour. Je m'excuse quand même, ma question n'était pas en lien avec l'annonce d'aujourd'hui. Est-ce que je peux quand même y aller? Oui, allô?
Madame, écoutez, Madame Dumoulin, Je ne sais pas si Madame Katie McDonald parle le français. I don't know, Miss McDonald, if you speak French, but the journalist would want to ask a question which is not necessarily related to the topic. Madame Zoulin, est-ce que ça serait possible de la poser à la fin, qu'on revienne à vous, puis que ça va nous faire plaisir, puis de continuer avec des questions sur l'enjeu du jour?
Ben, j'ai passé mon tour, je vais attendre à la fin. Merci beaucoup.
So what I just say, Katie, is that we would come back to the journalists at the end, but focus first the questions on the announcements so that Mayor Iveson, Premier Kenney, and I could, and the company could answer. But we'll come back to that journalist at the end, if that's okay with you.
Very good, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci. Our next question is from Kevin Nimmock of CTV Calgary. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, all. I'm actually in the same boat. I have two questions, but they're unrelated to the announcement, so I would love to be called back at the end.
Thank you, and we will pass to the next question. Our next question is now from Rick Bell of the Calgary Sun. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hello. I actually have a question off topic, but on a very important topic for Premier Kenney. I wonder if I could ask this now, because there are people who do want to ask questions beside questions on this announcement. It's just a very short question.
Premier, you decide.
Well, it sounds like we're going to go through the whole queue of people looking for a question on the $1.3 billion announcement today. I'm happy to go ahead, but I would ask the journalists, I can try to make myself available for other off-topic questions later, because we do hope to have some attention with Mr. Ghassemi here on the announcement. But go ahead, Rick.
Okay, yes, this is just a very quick question. And Premier, what are your thoughts on the possibility of the city of Calgary, or perhaps even the city of Edmonton, I don't know, keeping a mask mandate in place after the province drops its compulsory mask mandate? It's in Calgary, it's being debated, I believe, June 21st. So what are your thoughts on the fact that once your plan of Open for Summer goes into action and masks may be recommended but not made compulsory, that there is the possibility that one or both of the major cities in Alberta might continue to require the mask wearing under their bylaw?
Well, I would just hope, Rick, that everyone in the province follows the advice of the Chief Medical Officer, whose team proposed our Open for Summer plan, which is a safe plan. It will get us to the highest level of population protection in the world for any society that has opened up, and with at least 70% population protection on a 2-week lag. And we have seen places all across the world open up completely at much lower levels of population protection and see their numbers continue to fall. So I would hope that that municipal and other authorities across the province would take very seriously the expert advice of the Chief Medical Officer and the Alberta public health experts.
Are you prepared to step in if necessary to make sure that the Calgarians will be under the same freedom that other people in Alberta will enjoy when the time comes?
Well, you know, we've been trying to work cooperatively with municipal leadership over the past 16 tough months, and hope that will continue to be the case. And I have got to believe that our municipal leaders will respect the plan put forward by the Chief Medical Officer and the public health team in Alberta.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from Colin Gallant of Medicine Hat News. Please go ahead. Mr. Gallant, your line might be on mute.
Excuse me, sorry about that. I do have a question for Mr. Ghassemi or Ms. Smith, perhaps. The hub concept for hydrogen has been discussed during this rollout. We have one of the first large major projects here, but can I get your sense of how quickly this may spread both in terms of production at other locations as well as general use of hydrogen? And then I would do follow up for the Premier. Hello?
Seifi, we cannot hear
Hello?
you. You're on mute.
Thank you very much for your question, sir. We are starting with the hub in Edmonton, but as you said, the opportunity is obviously there in Canada. We are working on other projects in other parts of Canada. And I think as the Canadian government continues to support the transition, as Minister Champagne was referring to, there are significant opportunities to do the same thing in other parts of Canada. I mean, there is significant population centers. So you have to start somewhere. The ideal place to start was in Edmonton because of the natural gas resources. And I have to say, because of the aggressiveness of Premier Kenney and his staff to kind of get us there to make the first investment. So I have to give them a lot of credit. But there is a lot of opportunities in other parts of Canada, and we are working on them. These projects take 3-4 years to develop, but we are in that process, and we envision many hubs, not only in Canada, but also in US and other places in the world. But as I said, I congratulate the Premier. I congratulate Mr. David Knightley for being proactive in getting us involved that, hey, this is a place, why don't you do this first? So that is why we are there, but that doesn't mean we are not going to be other places.
And let me jump in very briefly, just to add as Minister of Natural Resources and our announcement on a hydrogen plan for Canada. It embraces not just green hydrogen, but blue hydrogen, which is the strength of Alberta and of Saskatchewan. Seifi, I couldn't help but notice over your shoulder a copy of Daniel Yergin's book, The New Map, on how energy across this country, across the world geopolitically is changing. And, you know, when you look at this announcement from Air Products on hydrogen, the future of hydrogen in Alberta and Saskatchewan, perhaps in my province here of Newfoundland and Labrador with hydroelectricity, perhaps, well, we know, I think in Quebec with green hydrogen. We are ready. This country is ready to be a hydrogen powerhouse, building on the people and expertise and natural resources that are already available to us. And I have to point out too, the Oil Sands Alliance for Net Zero, our biggest players in the oil patch, committing to the moonshot, as we call it, of net zero by 2050. And when I say moonshot, I mean it in the best sense. I don't mean it as some, you know, out of the world thing. I mean it in the sense that President Kennedy meant it. I mean it as a challenge for this country, as a targeted challenge, that when NASA and the United States decided to proceed, they went to the moon and they got to the moon. And this country will lead. We will lead based on the strengths of our natural resources and of our people, such as the great expertise that we have in Alberta.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir.
Just a follow-up for the Premier, he mentioned the hydrogen strategy document would be is in the final stages, and that the general gas strategy takes the view of regional petrochemical hubs. Do you see that possibility as well for hydrogen production?
Oh, very much so. And we see naturally that hub is going to be east of Edmonton. As Mayor Iveson said, we really want to give a shout out to the Metro Edmonton team, particularly the industrial heartland that has had this vision for some time. But you know, down in Medicine Hat, you have very important natural gas reserves as well. And we hope to see investments in the hydrogen economy across the province. One key part of this is carbon capture, utilization, and storage infrastructure. As you know, last year we commissioned the Alberta Carbon Trunk Line, which is now sequestering an enormous amount of CO2 in our sedimentary basin in central Alberta. And it's only 10% utilized right now. So these hydrogen projects will require a connection to that CCUS, that carbon capture, utilization, and storage infrastructure. So we are already a world leader in that respect. You know, let me just say this. Alberta was sometimes mocked and ridiculed 15 years ago for stepping out with big investments on carbon capture and storage. It was claimed by many that it would never be economical and it was all just a waste of money. I think it's the leaders who made those decisions 10 and 15 years ago have been validated by the huge demand for carbon capture, utilization, and storage, which is a key part of the aspirational target of net zero by 2050 articulated by 6 of the major oil sands producers today. So anyway, we do see that Alberta will become a natural home for future, particularly blue hydrogen investments, the combination of abundant natural gas, the CCUS infrastructure that already exists. We want to thank the federal government for announcing, in principle, incentives to increase investments in carbon capture and utilization and storage. Plus, the industrial capacity that we have. We add all of those things up, and this will be a natural home. And I can tell you, we're in discussions with many different proponents of potential large-scale blue hydrogen projects here in Alberta.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question, la prochaine question, is from Chris Vargo of the Calgary Herald. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, this is a question for both Premier Kenney and Minister O'Regan. As you mentioned, Minister, today we have 5 of the largest oil sands producers forming an alliance to reach net zero emissions by working together. We've also got this announcement today in Edmonton. I guess, what is the message on the commitment to cutting emissions, but also, I guess, how big is the challenge going to be for Canada's energy industry to get to net zero, given the fact that emissions have actually been going up over the last 20 years?
Chris, that was to me and then Seamus, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. First, I'd like to commend the leadership of Canadian Natural Resources, Cenovus, Suncor, Imperial, and Meg Energy for their collaborative announcement today. We've been working with those companies for several months on developing this joint industry initiative. In fact, in Alberta's 2020 throne speech, we said that Alberta's government would work with energy producers on helping them to achieve net zero targets. It is audacious, and let's be honest, there is no easy path to that, to achieving that goal. But as we have always said, the application of technology is the solution. And a big part of this will have to be carbon capture, utilization, and storage. It won't be the only part of the strategy, but we are looking forward to working with the Government of Canada on ensuring that the intended tax incentives for CCUS investments is big and flexible, because it has to meet or beat the analogous incentives in the United States to attract big multi-billion-dollar capital investments in CCUS here at home. So I look forward to working with you on that, Seamus, you and your colleagues at Finance and Environment. But other technologies are very important. As you know, oil sands have already reduced the carbon intensity of a barrel of bitumen by 30% since 2000. The shift to solvents away from SAGD is a key part of that. The shift to natural gas cogen to power those operations, a big part of it. Obviously, hydrogen, like today's announcement, is going to be a big part of it. So there will be major future investments in technology. And we'll be supporting those in part through the Technology Innovation and Emissions Reduction Program. So we're excited to work with those producers. We have an amazing story to tell global capital markets about Canada's environmental, social, and governance performance. We think we get underrated on that front, and this will demonstrate the scale of Canada's ambition to those investors. Seamus?
Agree completely, Premier. We have an excellent story to tell on ESG. We are also, there's no other democracy in the world that has the wealth of natural resources that we do. That means that we are very transparent in how we extract and we go about producing and refining our natural resources. But we have an excellent story to tell. And now we look at how things have changed. We're looking at the new map. we're looking at quite a bit of disruption in the industry when we look at what's happened from the International Energy Agency's report of only 2 weeks ago, an agency that was formed by the OECD to determine whether or not the world has enough oil. We dug in deep into that. This is something that we asked them to study. What would net zero look like? And one of the things we do know is that natural gas used for hydrogen is going to play to Canada's strengths, and it is something that the world needs and wants. As well, we have with our hydroelectricity, we have the potential for enormous green hydrogen as well, that the world wants. So what I would say is, given the level of expertise we have, the ingenuity and the hard work that we have shown, in 2 generations, we managed to figure out how to get oil out of sand and become the 4th biggest producers of oil and gas in the world. That is an incredible accomplishment. And may I brag on behalf of my province that the president of ExxonMobil Canada has said repeatedly that there is no harsher environment that his company works in globally than the Newfoundland offshore. And yet in the past generation and a half, look what we've built. Now our industry and our country, as the 4th biggest producer of oil and gas in the world, is facing another significant crossroads. But what do we have in our corner? An incredible wealth of natural resources and an incredibly talented workforce with the level of expertise that is required for this challenge, that is up to this challenge.
If I may add, and I don't want to prolong a short question with a long answer, but I would say you have the word of the Premier, you have the word of the Natural Resource Minister, but you have the word of one of the world-leading company, which is Seamus O'Regan, which just said at the beginning, he cannot think of a better jurisdiction to invest today when he thinks about natural resources. So it's not only elected leaders in Canada at all level, but you have an investor who, I don't want to speak for him, but I think you're in 52 countries, Seamus, operating, and you were saying to us stability, predictability, rule of law, the ESG, everything the Premier said, and the Minister of Natural Resources. And today we have a great announcement, but as the CEO and chairman of the company said, we are looking at even more investments. So my point is that it just shows from a leading investor, a worldwide investor, that we are a very attractive place to invest in the world today. And that is going to continue thanks to the work of the province of Alberta, great work that's been done at provincial level, and the Minister of Natural Resources, who have put Canada as in the minds of all the CEOs in the world to say, come, have a look, invest, because that's the place to be if you want to be in the energy sector of the future.
Very true.
If I could just add too, really quickly, that we'll be your first customer. I've got these hydrogen buses on order, and I'm gonna need hydrogen for them. So from top to bottom.
And I just made a great announcement with the Alberta Motor Transport Association about running demo hydrogen 18-wheelers between Calgary and Edmonton. And as soon as they're getting up and running, I am going on a trip. Alberta is leading the way in this. We are laser focused on lowering our emissions, and our governments are working well because we understand the breadth and the depth of this challenge, but we are laser focused on it. We will lower our emissions, and we can lead the world in this area.
Hi, I have a follow-up.
Go ahead, Chris. Or sorry.
Yes, I have a follow-up for the CEO, Mr. Kenney. I'm wondering if you can talk about with this project, what are the next steps in the development of it? And you also referenced the fact that there could be other phases in Alberta and in the Edmonton area. Can you talk about those phases and the timing of them and what they would look like?
Sure, I'd be delighted. But before I answer your question, I'd just like to follow up on what was said in the previous answer to the previous question. The great thing about Canada is that not only Canada has the natural resources, other places do have natural resources too. But the great thing about Canada that is attracting a company like us to come and invest is the vision and the determination of the government and of the political leadership. That is very important to us, because when we do these multi-billion-dollar projects, these are 10, 20, 30-year projects, and we can't in the middle change our mind and vote this and move it to somewhere else. So for us, the important thing is what is the determination and the vision of the political leadership. And that is what we see Canada being on the leading edge. And that is really what is attracting us to be there. But specifically the answer to your question is that the facility that we are building, as I said, is the way we have bought the land and all of that, we plan to duplicate and triplicate this as the demand for green hydrogen increases in the Alberta region. I mean, right now, we heard about the fact that the companies have made announcements to achieve net zero. Well, they can only achieve net zero if they use hydrogen. So the demand for hydrogen is going to go up. The demand for hydrogen for mobility is going to go up. So we plan to expand the existing facility, and that's why we call it multi-billion-dollar project in different phases. I was very specific to say that the first phase will be operational in 2024, the $1.3 billion investment. Then, as far as other projects, we are working on 3 other significant projects in Canada. But the other private company, there is a lot of advantages to being a little bit quiet and not claiming anything until you actually do something. So if you kind of allow me to be a little bit secretive about that, but the Canadian officials are very much aware of some of the other projects that we are working on, and we look forward to announcing them when the time comes.
And operator, it looks like we're just about out of time. If you don't mind, maybe one last question.
Yes, certainly. And our last question is from Bob Weber of the Canadian Press. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's not quite clear to me what has been signed today. The government press release was a little bit ambiguous about whether this plant was actually going ahead or not. And Mr. Ghasemi, if you could maybe, first of all, address what's actually happening here. Is this plant going to get built, or are there further steps that need to be worked out before we go ahead with this? And as a follow-up question, I would like to know from Premier Kenney and Minister O'Regan what the government contributions have been to this. I know, Premier, you mentioned this in your opening remarks. The phone line bleeped out a little bit and the number disappeared. And there was also a reference to tax and regulatory changes from the federal government. I'd like Minister O'Regan to address that, please. Thank you very much.
Well, you wanted me to go first. I will do that. We say very clearly in the press release that the Board of Directors of Air Products has approved the project contingent to us finalizing the agreements that we are discussing with the Government of Canada. The ministers said that we have some memorandum of understandings, and those need to be translated into final agreements. So with that, the rest of it, I'd like to leave it to the ministers to comment on that rather than me commenting on that.
Sure, I'll take the Alberta piece and then over to our federal colleagues. So first of all, what I confirmed today was $15 million in support through the Alberta Emissions Reduction Alberta, which is funded by our Technology Innovation and Emissions Reduction Fund. And in addition, we will be working out details on potential support for an incentive for this project through the Alberta Petrochemical Incentive Program. Air Products has made an application, but we'll have to finalize the details. But that's part of our broader diversification and petrochemical strategy. Hydrogen projects qualify for the incentive under the petrochemical incentive. So we'll have a future announcement on the exact details of that when they are finalized.
Premier, excuse me, did you say 50 or 15?
15.
Thank you. Minister O'Regan?
I'm actually going to defer to my colleague, Minister François Philippe Champagne. He is the deal maker on this one. I'm here in support, but happy to speak to it later. But François,
we're all in this together. We're all in this together. I must say, but I would say, as the Premier said, we have signed a memorandum of understanding. This is a significant and necessary step in the process to land a large investment with a world-leading company. As you would appreciate, as Seifi said, when you're talking about a phase one and a multi-billion-dollar projects. We are working with the province of Alberta on some element of due diligence with respect to a different step, but that I would say is very normal in the process when you have large investment. I think what is important for Albertans and all Canadians and Edmontonians today is that the purpose of today was really to secure a significant investment by a world-leading company in the hydrogen space. We have achieved that. And as is very common in these projects, we will continue to work with them. As the CEO and chairman said, once you have an MOU, then you need to move to the next phase and move towards other steps that are needed to come to final agreement and define the level of contribution and the commitments that would be made by the federal government and the company. But I would say today is very significant. And as Seifi was kind to say, not only we're looking at that, but I think he hinted that we're looking at others. So the relationship is great. The future is great. And we will continue to work together with our friends in the province because we share due diligence. We have achieved that thanks to Premier Kenney and his minister. We have now a process where we do these things together. And I think it helps to speed up the process of reviewing these very complex projects. And we will continue to do so. Katie, if I may just say in all fairness to the two first questions, I know Premier Kenney, if you have a hard stop, but I feel bad that the first question was in French and I would not want the journalist to feel we didn't have a question in French and you had also someone else. Maybe in all fairness, Katie, I'm willing to stay a bit more just to, in fairness, and Minister O'Regan, if you agree, there was these two first questions which we defer, one was in French. So maybe operator, you could go back to the French question and then the second one, which was, I think, directed at Premier Kenney.
And I've got to drop off, but thank you all for today. It's fantastic. Merci.
Thank you, Mayor.
Et oui, certainement, ministre Champagne. Donc, je retourne la parole à Charlotte Dumoulin de Radio-Canada. Your line is open. À vous la parole.
Oui, merci, j'apprécie que vous preniez ma question. Alors, ma question est pour soit bien vous, le ministre Champagne ou M. Kenney. Alors, ce matin, on a appris qu'il va y avoir une alliance entre 5 grandes pétrolières pour atteindre d'ici 2050 la carboneutralité. Dans leur communiqué, les entreprises semblent dire qu'elles vont collaborer avec le fédéral et Alberta. Alors, comment le fédéral et l'Alberta prévoient aider financièrement ces 5 grandes pétrolières pour atteindre la carboneutralité?
Monsieur le Premier ministre, voulez-vous y aller en premier?
OK, merci. Oui, nous travaillons depuis quelques mois avec les leaders de ces compagnies de l'énergie sur leur plan, leur cible de net zéro production de carbone d'ici 2050. Effectivement, dans le discours du trône de l'Alberta de l'année dernière, on a dit que le gouvernement de l'Alberta va travailler avec les pétroliers pour obtenir leur vision d'une production net zéro. Ça va à l'avenir, ça veut dire qu'il faut avoir les investissements énormes dans la technologie comme la capture et utilisation de carbone. Heureusement, l'Alberta est déjà une leader à cet égard. On est une des seules juridictions au monde avec une pipeline pour le carbone, par exemple. Et cette infrastructure-là est essentielle pour attirer davantage des investissements dans les domaines comme hydrogen, que nous annonçons aujourd'hui. Alors, il y a toutes sortes de technologies importantes. Il faut travailler entre la province et le fédéral. À cet égard, le gouvernement fédéral a annoncé dans le budget dernièrement un incitatif pour les investissements dans les technologies de carbon capture and storage. Et j'ai hâte à finaliser les détails à cet égard, mais c'est une ambition importante de ces compagnies-là. Et je crois que c'est un message important aux investisseurs partout au monde que le Canada et l'Alberta aura une des plus responsables industries énergétiques au monde.
Monsieur le ministre O'Regan, voulez-vous prendre la question ou vous voulez que je la prenne comme vous voulez?
Absolument. Mais en anglais, just to say, the markets are moving. Markets are moving quickly. Investors are rewarding jurisdictions that take combating climate change seriously. They are divesting from jurisdictions and from companies that do not. And when we look at what happened at ExxonMobil just 2 weeks ago, those activist investors were in fact 3 of the 4 biggest public pension funds in the United States from New York and California. So this is significant, but we have a very good story to tell, as the Premier said. And I think that the Oil Sands Alliance for Net Zero really puts our companies front and center to say that they are taking the leadership. And in fact, have already done a great deal. Now we need to do more. You know, this is a thing. We talk about the economy and the environment working well together. This is, in fact, I would argue, a strategic economic imperative for our country that we get this right. This is why our governments are working so closely together. And this is why we are able to draw investments from SAFE and from, you know, auspicious companies like his, global companies like his, because I think they do appreciate that we are serious. And we will continue to make smart investments. We've done so with the Emissions Reduction Fund, as Minister Champagne can tell you. We've also done it, you know, through regulations, through things like price on pollution, through the clean fuel standards. We are laser focused on lowering emissions, and we will work with Canadian industry to do that.
Si je peux rajouter en français, Mme Dumoulin, avant de terminer, juste pour vous dire, évidemment, comme le premier ministre Kenney le disait tantôt, c'est une très bonne nouvelle de voir les grands joueurs de l'Alberta se réunir ensemble pour s'engager vers un objectif de net zéro par 2050. Autant en Alberta, autant au Canada, vous avez vu dans le dernier budget fédéral, il y a une emphase claire. On a vu dans notre fonds net zéro, par exemple, on a 8 milliards pour justement, comme le premier ministre Kenney le disait, supporter les technologies vertes. C'est les technologies qui vont nous amener. Qu'on parle de la capture du carbone, par exemple, qu'on parle de d'autres technologies qui vont nous permettre d'être là. Alors, c'est sûr que autant au niveau fiscal, autant au niveau d'investissement, on sera là pour appuyer cette transition-là, comme le ministre O'Regan l'a fait dans plusieurs programmes au niveau des ressources naturelles. Je pense que vous avez les 2 ordres de gouvernement qui sont là pour appuyer cette transition-là. Et évidemment, la nouvelle qui a été annoncée, c'est une bonne nouvelle parce qu'on se rend compte aujourd'hui qu'il y a une corrélation et une conjugaison parfaite entre l'emploi, l'économie et l'environnement. Et je pense que tous les programmes, toutes les initiatives qui vont dans ce sens-là, c'est de bonnes initiatives. Back to you, operator.
Merci, thank you. And the next question from the beginning was Kevin Nimmock of CTV Calgary. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, all, and thanks, Premier, for taking my question. A new Angus Reid report out today shows you have the lowest approval rating in the country at 31%. It also shows that if a provincial election were held today, the NDP would win. Why do you think so many Albertans are dissatisfied by your leadership recently?
Well, we're not here to talk about politics today, Kevin. But as I said before, obviously there's been a very polarized debate in Alberta, more than any other province, on COVID, with a large segment of the population thinking that we should have had much lighter public health restrictions and a large segment thinking we should have had much tougher public health restrictions. All I can tell you is I can't wait for us to get open for summer and get past COVID to a great Alberta summer and to start to see the fruits of our economic policies. As you know, yesterday, the Conference Board of Canada confirmed their projection that Alberta will lead Canada in economic growth this year, joining several think tanks and banks in that. Today's investment, evidence of that growth, job creation. Last week, 1,000 new high technology jobs coming to Calgary through the Indian global high tech giant emphasis. So I'm looking forward to getting focused back on what Albertans elected us to do, which is to focus on jobs and growth as soon as we get out of COVID in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you very much to the media for your questions. I apologize that we were not able to get to everyone today, but we are out of time. Please do note that the governments of Canada and Alberta issued a joint news release while this event was underway, and you can find that on their websites. And if there are any journalists that have follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to the contacts on the news releases that were issued. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Merci beaucoup.